Hello, I'm Robert, voluntary fact checker and helping you if you're scared of many things. And this is about this story that scared quite a lot of you, and it's a complete nothing burger. And as I go through and explain how much of a nothing burger it is, then try and think back to how extremely scared you were. And this combination of something being extremely scary and yet it's really a nothing burger, then that is how these things go propagating through the social media. And you can use this response in yourself. If you read the story and you feel extreme anxiety or panic or something, then that is how it is propagating in social media. And then if you go and see, well, but nobody else seems to be bothered by it, then that's showing that this is something that's completely false. It's mistaken information that is panicking you. And it's not panicking other people because it's false. And it's not, think all the journalists, especially if it's not even in the mainstream media, there are things in the mainstream media that are false too, and they hype things up and make things seem scary when they're not. If it's not even in the mainstream media as the top headline news of the day, it's certainly not something that you need to be worried about at all. So the only question is, okay, so this must be a nothing burger, we need to get it fact checked and find out whatever it is about it that makes it a nothing burger. Certainly nothing to be scared of. So try and get that kind of attitude to these things. That it's not really, this thing is very scary, something awful is going to happen, please help me because I'm pretty sure this is true. But the other way around, there must be something wrong with this. It's obviously a complete nothing burger. So let's find out, why it seems scary when it obviously can't be. And that's changing around like that may well help with some people we're helping. So in this case, I'll just go through and talk about the false claim was, first of all, was a claim that let's go to content, so that may be a better way to do that. So the main false claim was that Persona steals clients' data and sends it to ICE. And this would be a criminal case. I'll give you an example here. So it's a bit like, suppose that this was a concrete example. This is a Monet painting, a very famous impressionist painter, and the former billionaire Tony O'Reilly, not through anything illegal he did, just through mistakes, then he became bankrupt and all his possessions had to be sold off to pay his creditors. So for a while this Monet painting was in a bank vault probably. I don't have actual confirmation, but it was being held ready for being sold. But let's suppose it was in a bank vault. Then suppose now that the bank was to say, okay, we think this should be in the Louvre, along with other impressionist paintings. So they just give it to the Louvre. Then that would be extremely illegal of the bank. Agreed? So if your identity is just as valuable to you as a Monet painting is to an art enthusiast. So if for the age verification company to steal your details and give it to the government, it just isn't illegal, and there'd be a criminal case going on already. There'd be a huge scandal about this, and that's not happening. So that shows you it must be a false claim. And the CEO of Persona, Rick Song, he says very clearly that that his organization will not allow his code to be used for anything to do with surveillance. And he has nothing to do with ICE. So if you care about code being used by things like this, combining together lots of data, try and get information from it, data that ICE has valid access to, but it combines together with various tools and then uses it in ways that are wrong. But if you care about that sort of thing, Persona is a good company to associate with, because they have made a very clear statement they're not going to have anything to do with that sort of thing. So the news the stories that were being shared, they could go completely back to front. Persona is a good company for this. They're people you should associate with if you care about things like this. So now let's look at the other thing, the claim about, let's go back, I'm back up to the top, how do I go to the top? Right, here we go. The other claim was about the supposed leak. So there was a claim that, so here's how, let's see, here's how Persona put it. Where is it? So there was this story that was just going everywhere over social media, at least lots of people in our group were sharing it and they were getting very scared by it. And the claim was that Persona has leaked a whole lot of stuff. And then they said, they gave several thousand files they claimed had been leaked on the internet. And all these files were front-end code. And front-end code, as Persona put it in their incident report after it, front-end code is by definition public. If you visit withpersona.com/dashboard, you'll see it. So I went there and had a look, and this is the front-end code. So you go to the Persona dashboard, you click on that, that's the dashboard section of it, then you go to your assets, and it's JavaScript, and then here's the text of the code. That's the front-end code. And you can even edit it. So I could make a copy of that file, I could change it, and then you can put your debugger on it. And you click on any statement and wait, and as soon as the code gets there, the code will stop. Then you can inspect all the internal variables in the code. And then for instance, if one of them is the birth date, then you'll be able to tell because it's in the format of a birth date. And if another is the name, then it'll have the name in plain text there. So you would not do anything secret. Anything you need to be hidden in the front-end code, especially since anyone like this, you've got a developer and looks at the front-end code, they can replace the script. So I could go to the Persona dashboard, I could take that, make a copy of that code, I could just change it completely and put that back in and run it in my browser. So Persona doesn't even know if it's their own code that they're being called by or if it's something that someone else has written. So you would never trust front-end code. And this is not every site most sites use JavaScript as a way to display what you see and to process it. This is JP Morgan. I looked it up, it's the largest bank in the United States that has private accounts. And I went to the page, you visit if you have a private account at JP Morgan, and then I went to look at the code, and here's all the front-end JavaScript code for JP Morgan. Again, they would never trust anything in their own front page code, because they can't know if what they're processing was written by them. So this is what supposedly, that's why I say it's a complete nothing burger to leak front-end code. You know, when I heard that's what it was, but why are they even writing about this? You know? And it turned out that and as I say, Persona's security architecture is built on a fundamental principle: we do not trust the client. The client there, he doesn't mean the clients that they're working for. The client means your browser and everything is running in it. All the code that's running in it. Our back-end systems treat every request from a browser or device as potentially adversarial. And all the sensitive logic lives on the server side. And that's the part that the hackers can't reach. Nor should they trust the client. So I should explain there what client code is. Anyone can edit the client code in any modern browser to whatever they wanted to do. And not only was this exposed code, just front-end code. It wasn't production code. It wasn't even their own normal dashboard. It was early-stage development code that was not yet ready to use with any client. It wasn't attached to any data. There wasn't anything on the server side connected to it. And you learn absolutely nothing about it. And so the only thing that was different is that the engineer, and because they were developing code, he allowed source maps on the subdomain. So source maps just tell you that this is what this variable means. And so the developer, the engineer, used that for debugging, so that you can click and you say, oh well, actually that variable is indeed the birth date. It's going to be called birth date instead of something obscure like A1. And the result of the internal review was it turned out no security issues whatsoever in the decision by the engineer to allow source maps on the subdomain for the development code. It just turned up that the standard is that for their work, standard isn't just is this secure, it's also could this appear secure. And so they have made a lot of changes going forward, so this can't happen again. In future, they will, there was the only evidence, by the way, you know that whole ICE thing, the only evidence they had for the claim that it was connected with ICE is that the developer put the word Onyx in the path to the source code. So he said, I made a little directory called Onyx, and within that he put everything. And the word Onyx comes from a Pokemon character, which was this particular developer's favourite Pokemon character. And it turns out that ICE has a whole code base called Onyx, which is completely different. It's nothing to do with this development server that this engineer put the directory, the name of the folder that this engineer put everything in. There was nothing to do with ICE. And that was the only evidence that was given. And the Celeste, VM Funk, the one who made this long adversarial blog post about this all, and he said that he found no evidence of any connection with ICE. The only evidence he had was this name Onyx. He said so himself. And so what they have decided going forward is that in any public-facing code, they will never use words like Onyx that are made up by the developers, but only descriptive names. And they will never make the source maps available to external viewers, only to the engineers. So they'll still be there, but only the engineers can see them. So that's the change they've made, and it's not a security issue at all. It's just so that it seems secure, to make it seem secure, so they won't get, just so it won't seem insecure, basically essentially so that they won't get any more blog posts like this one, criticizing them for it. So, yes, where is it all? And he explains that historically, Persona originally did have these source maps that they've criticized for the engineer for having, and they moved away from that just to make casual reverse engineering less convenient. So people just casually, let's inspect this code in a browser and see what it all means. And it's all A1, A2, A3 or something. And so they'll be put off at an early stage because none of the variables are actually named. So, but there's no sensitive data in our front-end code, no API keys, no secrets, no credentials, no custom data, and that is by design. So, and so this is the list of all the changes they'll do going forward. So source maps must not be publicly accessible. That they use the same security baselines regardless of whether the environments contain any data. So in this particular case, this was just front-end dev code. There was no data in the environment, and that was partly why the developer thought, well, I might as well include the source maps. But they've now made this consistent across everything, even if there's no data at all, no client data involved, that they won't let anyone see the source maps apart from their developers, regardless of whether those environments contain data. And they will use clear descriptive names, and internal project code names will remain internal. So if their team is calling this the Onyx program, they won't make that public. They'll just call it there's something or other, and quite a long, complicated name. Our experimental dev code for a future possible federal contract or something. It might have a long name like that for the folder name. So that's what they're changing. So can you see now that this whole thing is just a complete nothing burger? And then think back to how scared you got about something that is just there's no security issue whatsoever in any of this. I've got now here now this is about the policy about ICE. He said that Persona currently has no federal contracts and publish them if they do. We do not want our technology to be used by ICE or the government or for any surveillance purposes. And the reason it was going through, it's going through a process called FedRAMP, which is making sure it can be used by the government, and that's because they have a couple of agencies that want them to provide identity proofing services for remote federal employees. So it's for employees accessing something in the government from a distance, needing to be able to prove who they are. And Persona is providing a solution for that. And so, of course, you have much stricter things there, lots of checks you have to do that you wouldn't have to do for age verification. I'll talk at the end about all the different things they do. You can read these emails if you like, but I mean, you can see that they're just talking that Celeste says all sorts of things and Rickson answers them, and Celeste doesn't really seem to be quite engaging with it. It's he or she remains suspicious to the end, and keeps saying, but they do say that the only evidence for the I don't know if it's worth. Anyway, so this is about the Onyx thing, and apparently the Pokemon character is meant to be spelled Onyx, but in one release it was accidentally spelled with a Y instead of an I. And so many people think of it as being Onyx with a Y. So people were saying, why didn't he spell it with an I if it's Pokemon? And the reason is because many people think of the Pokemon characters as being spelled with a Y. So it's quite understandable that he spelled it with a Y. Yeah, I don't know if I want to go into the weeds of all this correspondence. You can read it if you're interested. Right, what else do I need to go and look at? I'll just go up to the just a little bit about how Persona is used for many different things. But yeah, let's just stop this soon. So Persona, this is the age verification, and so Persona. Oh yes, the idea of an API. So I just talked about the. I've got an example. So, for instance, yes, here we are. So, all those names that they have in the code. So there are loads and loads of names. If you go and look in the code, that things that you could ask Persona. So you could ask for the birth date. You could ask, has this person been labelled as a terrorist in international terrorist lists? You could ask, you could ask what's their address. what's the government ID? All sorts of questions like this that you can ask via the Persona database. But in the particular case of Discord, all those fields were blurred out, so the information wasn't even there to access in the database, because they blurred out all these fields before they uploaded it. They got Persona to blur out all these fields in the photograph before analysing it, so the information wasn't even there. In the case of OpenAI ID, the information was there of whatever you had on your government ID, but OpenAI doesn't access it, doesn't ask Persona for it. So it's there, but it's deleted. So it was just parsed, but nothing was done with it. And you had all these fields that you could ask Persona. So you could say, well, I want Persona to find out for me what the government ID is, say. Then you could run that to Persona, but you don't need to ask for that. And if you're doing this responsibly for age verification, then you don't ask that question, even if they extracted it from the photo ID. And so this is an example like, I'm a Windows programmer, and for instance, when I'm programming Windows, I might want to know which is the window that the user is currently using. So that's a very simple function that I've used a lot. And you just say get foreground window, and it returns you the handle to the window, and then you can do things with it. And you can check, is this a window that I have anything to do with? And if it is, or maybe you want to be able to, for instance, if you were writing a very simple utility to take screenshots, then you might use get forward window and then do a screenshot of it. So you could write quite simple programming, not very many lines to do that. So you have all these things that you can call in order to interact with your Windows interface, with Windows code. This is not a security risk for Windows. This is the way that you, as a programmer, have to communicate with Windows. You're not going to be able to find things that are in other... So Windows is very much compartmentalized. And if you're in one program, if you write in one program, you can't access the memory that any other program is looking at. It's the way modern Windows is designed. All the stuff that other programs are working with, you can't see all those variables. You can't see all that memory, because it's all sandboxed. All the programs are sandboxed from each other. So you have this way of getting all the things that you are permitted to look at. And that would be, for instance, get foreground window, which lets you, for instance, do a screenshot. One program can do a screenshot of another program. So this is very similar to the way that Persona is working. So you have all these variables that you can use to get whatever information you want. But you can't get secret information from how Persona works that way. And you only get whatever you ask for. So client of Persona, they could just use birthday to retrieve the date of birth, and that's the only thing your program wants. And Persona recommends only asking for the program information your program needs. It says use include and fields to request only the data you need, and that has multiple benefits. And they give other things like much less data having to be transferred and so on. And then one of the benefits is avoid personally identical information transfer. So someone who's doing secure coding with age verification, they do not want to transfer anything else except the date of birth to the application that is checking the age of someone. So they won't ask for anything else. So anyway, so I hope that helps you understand how this all works. And then if we go back, and so then if we go down to my this thing, so Discord KID, which I did a separate video about, that is only used for age verification. All you can get from that is pass or fail, whether adult or not. all the information is very quickly deleted. It's a specialized program just for age verification. Yachty is similar. But Persona is a program that is used for lots of different things. However, it is very well trusted, and it's used for fraud detection for new bank accounts, screening of new employees. It's used by several states. The state of California uses Persona. So that's quite a big client. And so it's used for different things. So when it's screening for government employment, for instance, it'll have to do lots and lots of tests and checks. Or if you're taking out a new bank account, you expect whatever software is processing your ID that you've uploaded, it would check to see if you've got any record of, for instance, a bank fraud in the recent past. You would expect it to do that. A bank is legally required to do that. So what Persona does depends on who's using it. The software, it's like the Windows operating system. It's sort of a complete operating system for people who want to do different things to do with identity verification. And so for age verification, just like if I just want to do a screenshot, I just get foreground window and some other simple code that I can bolt on, and then I've got my screenshot. But if you want to age verification, all you need to do is ask for date of birth, and you just use the function that gets the date of birth, and then to check that check the selfie matches the photo in the photo ID, and then that's it done. And the Persona, you just say something like check photo matches document photo ID. You wouldn't actually see the photo because that'd be personally identical information. You don't want to see it. And so the best. So when you do the age verification, it's all set up so that this information never gets to the age verifier, never gets stored. It never gets sent to OpenAI. So that if, for instance, OpenAI got a court order saying, look at this user and tell me what their real name is, and OpenAI can say, we don't know. It's nowhere in our records. There's no way you can get this information from us because we never obtained it. Because they just showed their photo ID to Persona, who verified them, and it's all gone now. The data's all gone. So that's the way it works. You see. So it is. You are very secure. These things are set up to keep you very safe and very secure. And Persona is a very good company, and you shouldn't have any concerns about if you at some point you come across, like for instance, you want to join Reddit, they're using Persona, you want to do age verification through Reddit or age verification for OpenAI, then Persona is a really good company. And I looked into it carefully, and yeah, I would trust my data with them. They're a very good company. So anyway, hopefully that helps you and helps you be a bit less scared about this sort of thing. And then just try and think about this, now that you've understood Persona is safe, it's a good company, it does not steal your data, its leak was a complete nothing burger, and then think about how scared you were, and hopefully now you can see there's nothing to be scared of at all. And then try and think about how that also applies to other things that scared you. And so hopefully that helps you. And I'll upload this, what's that, 20, just sort of half an hour. Oh well, anyway, hopefully that's okay. I'll upload it. I'll put the link to the blog post in the video description. And any questions, be sure to say.